everyone. Just wanted to welcome you here this morning. Um, we're going to be taking a look at some uses of Operator 10 in the aspect of water, wastewater, Synexus, either one of the any of the programs. But we're going to look at, and one of the things we're going to talk about is the importance of tracking and organizing data. First of all, just kind of let you know, I'm BJ Yoder. I'm going to be your host today. Um, I've worked with Allmax for several years. Most of you I've probably talked to at one point or another. Um, but I will be hosting the webinar today. And what we're going to talk about is we're going to look at three main items. And this kind of goes into other things as well. But number one, easy ways to find data that is needed for facility control. So looking at data, trying to find it, what's the easiest way of doing it, some different ways of looking at data, how to manipulate data for both entry and viewing of data. And also, you got a facility expansion coming, how to get that information out to your engineers, because from my experience as an operator as well, is they're bound to ask you for stuff. So we're going to be taking a look at that. So let me open the program here. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some different things. Now, data. It is probably one of the biggest things that at your plant that, well, really be honest with you, you have it for several reasons. Number one, you have your data that you're going to be using for your state reports. But you're also going to have the data that is used for process control. And also maybe data that is associated with just checks and what you're wanting to look at. So what we're going to look at here, and this is the main area of Operator 10 and where you can really look at data and manipulate data, is in the data view section. And we're going to spend a little bit of time in here, and we're going to go into view, and we're going to look at the data view section. And what this will allow us to do is look at different ways of handling that data. All right. So in your setup, you have your setup set for different things such as location parameters and all your locations that you're doing. I'm going to stick with wastewater because that's what we're in right now. But this will give you the ability to look at your FM ratios, your BODs that are coming into the plant, maybe your effluent data. Well, you have all this data, so we want to be able to manipulate it very well. So first of all, we can do, and a lot of you probably already have set up, is your standard data views already. I mean, it's a you probably have data views, and again, looking at things from the standpoint of looking at the data is you look at it as in a spreadsheet format. Okay, well, this isn't the only way that you can do things. Yes, this is probably how it was either set up for you, what you're familiar with, because you've done Excel for so long. Well, the benefit of Operator 10, and this is one of the things that's nice, and keep in mind, this is something that makes it easier, is being able to view this data, enter this data in a flexible format. I was working with a client this week, and they go, there's got to be an easier way of doing this because we don't want to look at all this data at once, and we want our operators to have something that's a little bit easier. What can we do? Well, as you can see, we have all this information. And again, this is just our plant effluent here that we have available. Well, if we want to look at this data, yeah, it's great. We have options. We can look at a calendar year. We can come up here under the date. We can look at calendar year. So when we do that, it actually shows the entire year that you're looking for. We can look at it on a single day. We can look at it on a 7-day period. Again, just options of how to view it just to make it. Now, making those changes that I was just showing you, these here are not changes that have to be saved. So if you have a data view that you have open and you have your data and you want to look at it a different way, or maybe you want to look at it, like I said, maybe you want to look at it for a calendar for a 7-day period. You just come up here to the date range and just hit 7 days. It automatically filters it out. It's not affecting your data. Okay. It's not affecting your data. The summaries that you here are just for that 7-day period. But it gives you the ability of looking at the data and manipulating it so you can find things easy. Maybe it's just a matter of finding the data. The other thing that you're able to do is change. The thing to remember is when you're in a data view, as long as you have the data in there, you can go and move just by changing the date range. You can go anywhere in the data view and see data wherever you have data. Well, that's great, but I'm still not, where do I want to see it? How do I want to see it? What do I want to manipulate? Okay, let's say, for example, we want to go and we want to have a data view that is going to be for our suspended solids. Maybe we're going to focus on the lab people, for example. They want to be able to just go in and enter all their suspended solid results. Well, one of the things that we can do is we can create a brand new one, and it's a matter of just hitting the new button here, and then we can filter. Okay, so I'm just going to go to TSS, and I'm going to find anything that has TSS in it. So we're going to do all our aeration basins here. And again, reminder, as we go in and we select, the order we select things is the way it goes and sees in the data view. So we'll go ahead and do my influent. Whoops, not that one. We're going to do this one, and we're going to do my effluent, and we'll go ahead and do my primaries as well. And so those will be ones that we pick for right at the moment. We'll grab those. So when we hit OK, this gives us a data view that has information in here. Okay, and we're able to see it, and again, in a month format, but this is not going to give something that's real easy and for a user to go and use. So what we do is we have the ability to go and change it. So if we go into properties, and I do this from a data entry standpoint quite frequently, is we can go in and we can give it a name. We're going to call this one Lab TSS. And then we can change stuff. So we can go and our font and color. One of the things that I like to do, and this is something that I have been doing a lot with clients, is it's nice to be able to see, yeah, I see the date, but it'd be nice if I could see the day of the week as well. So what you can do at that point is, if under font color, this is in the properties section, under font and color down here at the bottom where it says short date, you can do short date with DOW, or day of week. By doing that, and you hit OK, what this does then, it shows you the day of the week as well. And this to me is one of the, it's a nice way of looking at it, because you don't have to really, if you're doing things, you don't have to look at things as much from the standpoint of data, of the date. Okay, so that's one option that we can do, and that helps you out. Another thing that I like to do is, especially from a data entry standpoint, and this is for the lab people, the operators, whoever, is they don't really care about seeing the entire month's worth of data. They want to be able to enter their data easily. So what I like to do is, and again, in the properties, there is a display range. I always like to do a 7-day period. And again, this is something that makes sense to me from the standpoint is I don't have to look at everything in detail. So I can do a 7-day period, and I do a current period. So it's always, so what that means is when it opens the program, it always opens to the current period. And my day of the week, it starts on Sunday. Okay. So by doing that, and again, we're going to go ahead and by doing that, and I hit OK, now what it does is it shows it for a 7-day period. Now, yes, it doesn't show it here on 7-day period. It doesn't start on Sunday like I said it was, because I haven't saved it and reopened it. So if I save it and I close this, and we'll go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and close that one too. And we go ahead and we open it, and we go to the Lab TS one. It opened it for the current period Sunday. So going to open it this week for this week. And that's what's nice about that is then as I move forward or backwards, I'm looking at a week time period. Again, just something to make it a little bit easier to see and manipulate data. Well, there's more we can do with this just to make it even easier. So we'll go back into properties. Now, if I'm looking and I'm doing this for data entry, there's a couple things that I like to do is I don't really care about the summaries for that week. So what I will do is I will come in here and I will select all my columns and I'll remove all the summaries. And the reason I do that is because the people that are using this are using to enter data. They don't really care what summary stuff is. Now, just because I uncheck summary here does not mean that I am removing it from everywhere else. I'm removing it on this data view itself. Okay. So by doing that, I can come in here, I can change things like that, and I hit OK. So now I have no summaries don't show up. So that's step one. Okay. Another thing that we can do is going back into the property section is we can also change this to an inverted display. What this does is by doing inverted, again, it makes data entry a little bit easier, but by doing this, what this does is it goes and it puts the dates on the top and it puts the column headers to the left or on the side. So when we do that, we hit OK. Oh, wow, nice. I've got it this way. The benefit to this is when I go and enter data, if you enter a lot of data, instead of using the arrow key or your mouse, you just hit enter and it goes down. Okay. That's one nice thing about that. Now, this still looks a little bit clunky. Okay. And we can fix this. So one of the things that you're able to do is, and what I like to do is we just go ahead and pull out the data. And then if you click the header, the date up here at the top, it highlights the entire column, at which time you can go and grab one of the lines and you can go and bring it up. So we can change it. So it makes it a little bit easier to see. Now, yes, that is great. We have that, but my header columns just don't make sense to me. They're kind of I can't read them that well. So we can do some other things. But one of the things I noticed here when I selected these, I could grab two calculated fields as well. Well, I don't need those because they're calculated values. This is for data entry. So I can go back into the properties. I can right click, go to column properties, and I can grab those two that we had that have formulas and I can remove those. So now I don't have them, they're gone. Makes it a little bit easier from that standpoint. So now what do I want to do about changing my headers to make these work right? Well, you can go into each one of these and you can right click and you can go to edit column header and you can change the column header. All right. Another thing that you can do is if we go back to the column properties, right click, go to column properties, we know that these are all suspended solids. We know that for a fact. So what we can do is, one of the things we can do is we can go and select all these. And over here on the right, we can do a group header and we can say aeration basins. Okay. And do it that way. And we can put that in. By doing that, what it does is it down here across the side, it puts some text. Now, we can go change that text size so we can make it a little bit bigger. So just by going into properties, we can go into the font and color and my group header. So I can come in here and I can change this. So I can make it bold and we'll make it 10 and hey, whatnot. Let's just go ahead and make it red too while we're at it. And we hit OK. So now when I hit OK, it now has a little bit better text here. I can see it a little bit better. Well, then what we can do is instead of putting, since we know we're in TSS, we know we're doing TSSs, I can come in here and I can edit the column header and we can go basin one. Now, I always like to throw stuff in clipboards when I'm doing things because it just makes it a little bit easier. And we can come in here and we can go in And we can save these. And the idea is to customize this the way you want it. When we are customizing headers, just keep in mind that this is not affecting any data view that I have. We are just affecting this data view and this data view alone. That way we can go and we can customize it. And it doesn't matter if they're the same header that is on all the other ones. What really matters is that we're using the same location parameter. So when I right click here, see how it says aeration 7 solids TSS? That's all we care about. Anywhere there is an aeration 7 solids TSS in the entire database, whether or not we call it TSS, we call it basin 1, whatever we call it, it will find the data that is there, okay? So we can come in here and we can change these headers. All right. We can come in here and this here is now, we can just make this real easy and just make this influent. And the idea being is make it so it's understandable to you. All right. So then once we have all these done and we have this done, it looks a lot cleaner. It's a little bit easier to understand. People can come in here and they can enter data easily. Um, but it is a way of looking at it. Now, let's say, for example, we want to change the order of these. It'd be really nice because I do the influent ones first. Because when I always did my suspended solids in the lab, my first one on the page was influent. Then I had my basins, and then I had my influent, my primary, then I had my basins, and I had my effluent. That's how I had them on my bench sheet. Well, you want to make it so it matches, so it's easier to enter data. So we want to move these around. So what we can do is you can left click and drag, and this will take you to the top. You can move it wherever you want. So I just moved that to the top. I want to move my primary effluent up as well, but I want to leave my basins and my effluent the way they are. By doing that, it keeps it in the same order as the bench sheet that we normally have, and it just makes it a little bit easier from that standpoint. So now as we're coming in here and we're looking, when I enter data, I can sit here and I can come through and I can enter data. Again, I can enter data and just go down. So when we open this data view, and again, I have my TSS bench sheet. I can sit down and I can enter, my lab person can go in and they can enter their data for the day without having to look through an entire month's worth of data. That is a nice benefit. This also works very well for um, operational rounds data. Do the same thing. Think of it from that standpoint. What makes your job easier? All right. Now, I had a client that I was at the other here a couple months ago, and they had it set up that we did one of these, but the one operator goes, yeah, but you know, I do things in a different order. I don't do it the way they do it. Okay. So how do you do it? So what we did is we came up here and did a save as, gave it a different name, and we rearranged it the way they liked it. So that operator had a way of looking at data and entering data the way they wanted to. The benefit being is you're able to see all that and make the changes and make it work. All right. So we go and we create these data views and we create these weekly ones, which are really nice. Again, what we can do then is out here on the desktop is we can come in and we can left click, drag, and we can go in and grab the data view that we just created. And again, I'm going to go the lab TSS one, and we're going to save it. And then this is right here. So now what this allows us to do then is instead, maybe you have a tab for lab entry. They can come in here and they can open the data view. It opens to the current time period and you're all set. they can start entering data easier without having to look at those big data views that have so much that maybe you're using it for reporting, but this gives you that option. So if, let's say you had to, maybe this was a BOD bench sheet and you had to go back to the previous week to enter the results, well, it opens to the current, you just go up here, hit previous, it moves back. So it really gives you some options from that standpoint. Now, another thing that from another standpoint of viewing data and looking at data is um, maybe you have your chemical cost in, or you wanting to just see flows and you want to see what they are for the annual basis. You want to see it an annual basis. So we can come in here and we can do again, we're just going to filter for flow just because. And I want to go my influent, my primary effluent. Uh, we'll go ahead and, oh, sorry, I had two facilities in here. We'll grab my influent, we'll grab my effluent, maybe a secondary effluent flow rate, whatever we want to grab. My EQ feed, we grab those. This brings it in as a monthly data view just the way we did it, okay? So that way there, I'm just looking at a standard data view. But another thing that you can do is when you're doing a new one and you go and you do flow, we'll do flow, up here at the top where it says daily, instead of doing daily, take the selection of month summary, okay? What this will allow us to do then is same way we pick whatever we're going to want. We're going to grab my influent, my EQ feed. We'll just grab my effluent. Those are the ones we're going to work on right now. And we grab those. Then when we hit OK, what it does is it shows it for a 12-month period. All right. This is not a data entry type scenario. This is used um, for, for summary of data. Let's look at it that way. Now, when we set this up, just like we had in all the other ones, we can right click, you can change the column headers, and you can go from there. But the other thing that you can do is, and this is where month summaries are a little bit different. So if I come in here and I go into the column properties, if you look down here at the lower right-hand corner, it's got a summary value type. Your summary type is set to sum. So what that means is that as I'm looking at these, I'm going to be going in and I am grabbing, it's going to display the total for each month. All right. I can change that to whatever. So we can go and we can do an average, the max, min, whatever. You can do whatever you want in there. Now, what if I wanted to go and see the total? I love the idea of seeing how total is, but I want to see the average flow for each month as well. Well, what we can do then is we can come up here and we can do add, and we're going to go, again, we're going to go with our flow, and we're going to grab them in the exact same order just because I want to do it that way. So I'm going to grab my influent, my EQ feed, and my effluent. So when I grab those are now in here as well. They also come in as sum, but I can come in here and select them, and I can now go and change it. I can change it to average. All right. So this gives me the ability of changing it that way. So then when I hit OK, I now have both. These are average ones and these are sums. So we can, just like we did before, we can go and we can drag them to whatever we want. I'm going to go back to 22. This shows me the whole year. And again, I don't have a lot of data in my sample ones, but as you can see here, it goes the total for the month and then the average for the month. And you'd want to adjust your headers accordingly, okay? Now, just like in any other data view, you can go and you can take this and you can do a custom date range. So if you want to see it for a 5-year period, you could do it for 5 years. Not a big deal. It gives you the ability of looking at data from that standpoint. I have a client down in, I can't remember what state he's in now, but they have one set up that has a month summary one set up that has all their chemical usage, so they can see the total pounds that they're using every month. They can see the flows. They actually have costs tied in as well. So when they pull that one up every month, because they pull it up every month, they're able to see it for the year, everything they need to see, and they use it. They print it out and they use it to take it to their council meetings so that they can show where they're at budget wise. Again, just a different way of looking at data. All right. So now as we go in here and we save these, we can save them. We can go and you can go and create all the ones that you want. And it really is beneficial. But let's say, for example, and one of the things we talked about, and this is the key to remember about your data and your data views on how you're entering data, customize them to make it work best for you. Just because you've always used a spreadsheet, all right, and maybe you're new to Operator 10, or maybe you've used it for a long time. Just because you used Operator 10 and you've used data views set up as a big long spreadsheet, you don't have to. You can go and set them up any way you want, any amount of columns you want. You can enter data as many times as you want. You enter data one place, it shows up everywhere else. So you have that benefit. So that gives you that flexibility. Think outside the box. What's going to be the best way of entering data? How do I want to enter data to make it work well for me? So like that lab one, for example. Well, now we're going to get into something about how do I share this data? So for example, one of the things that I've had I've had to deal with several plants that I've worked at and everything else is the plant expansion. You've got a plant expansion coming up and you're like, the engineer calls you and says, "Hey, I need this. I need your flows. I need your BODs, your ammonias, your phosphorus. I need what you're at for the influent. I need it for the effluent, but I need it for 5 years. And I need this data and I need it like yesterday." So what we want to do then is we can come in here and we can create a brand new one. And again, we're going to do the same process of creating these as we've done. Um, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to filter by influent and effluent just by typing stuff in. That's the other thing to remember. Up here, you can filter by everything that you want. So we want the influent. We're going to grab our flow at the influent. We're going to grab our suspended solids. We're going to grab our BOD. We're going to grab our ammonia. And just because they're always going to come back and ask for it anyway, I'm going to grab the phosphorus anyway. So we grab the influent that way. We're going to go to the effluent. So they want the flow, the suspended solids. Where are they at? There they are. The suspended solids, the BOD, the ammonia, and again, we're going to give them phosphorus as well. And we know at the effluent, we sometimes have a problem with nickel. So we're going to go ahead and grab nickel too while we're at it, just because. So when I go and I grab this gives us our data view. All right. Just like we've done in the past. This gives you all that information. It gives you things. So you can come in here, you can change your headers, you can do all that. But here's where getting that information out really comes play. He said he wanted it for 5 years. So I can come up here under full month and I can do custom. All right. At which time I can come in here and I can change when I do it. I'm going to do January 1st of 2020 through the current month. So when I go and I do that and I hit confirm, what this then does is it goes in, and as you can see, January 1st, and if I had data in here for all my sample data, it'd run all the way to the end of this month. 5 years worth of data. Great, got it. Now how do I get it to them? Well, one of the things that you can do is you just come up here to tools and there's an export function and you can export it as an Excel file. At which time when you do it and you export it as an Excel file, it'll give you a prompt of where you want to save it. You save it, you go and attach it to the email, it'll have all the data in there and they're ready to go. You just email it to them and they've got it. Now they've got it some way that they can use it on their side. All right. So that's a great way of manipulating the data of how they want it. And again, do I need to save this? No. Does it delete data when I go and get rid of it? No. It is just for this viewing of data and manipulating it and sending it out. Okay. Now, when we talk about data, we've talked about data from the standpoint of, we've talked about data in the standpoint of the stuff that we use at the plant, the lab data, the process control data. Another thing to think about when you're looking at data is think of data, and I usually tell clients this when they're looking at setting stuff up, or maybe they've got stuff that's still in Excel. Think about moving all that data from Excel that you're normally doing in Excel, move it into here. Then you have everything in one spot. You may have to create location parameters for it, and you can do so and you can grab it in. All right. So this gives you the ability of looking at things, looking at data better, different ways of doing it. Now, one of the things I'm going to add here, and as we wrap up our time, and one of the things that I always like to talk about is people go and they ask us, well, what about the stuff that we have? We have stuff in here. We've used Operator 10 for 10 years. Our plants changed. Our what we track has changed. What we do on our reports has changed. Well, one of the things that you can do is you can contact us, contact your sales rep, and they'll and what we can do is we can set up a time and we can review your database with you. Maybe it's one of those things we just want to see, are we using it to the best of our ability? I just had a client the other week the other month do the exact same thing. We don't know if we're new to it. We don't know if we're using it to its fullest extent. We want to make sure that we have that capability. So what we did is we set up a time, and they set up a time with me. We set up a meeting and we took a look at their database and we went through their database, the different areas, and we looked at, well, here's stuff that you're not using anymore. Okay. Do we get rid of it? Maybe not. Maybe you move it off the data views. And we just went through their entire process of how they use the database and what they use it for. And we made suggestions. Is there anything wrong? Maybe not. Is there anything to be better? Possibly. But this is just stuff based on our experience, my experience of being in the wastewater industry and working in a treatment plant and everything, on ideas of how things you do. For example, one of the things they talked about, I says, one of the things that at my plant that I always used is I use my microscopic examination because that's how I ran my plant. That's how I was taught. So we always tracked all our bugs in the program. So we could tell based on the mixed liquor suspended solids, the BOD, and everything, we could see a correlation between what bugs we did have if our settling was going right accordingly. So that was stuff that we ended up adding to that client's database because they go, well, we've never done that before, but hey, like the idea, we track it, so why not put it in? So that's a service that we can offer you. Depending on how much what's involved with it, maybe it's just that we sit down and we just review what you have. Not charging you anything. We're just going to review what you have with you, give you suggestions, things that you may want to look at. Now, at that point, you may go, well, we'd like to have stuff changed. Then we may work with you on coming up with a cost on it. Another thing that we talked about, and we kind of mentioned about data getting for a plant expansion. Well, what if you have a brand new plant? Here over the last 2 years, I've worked with 2 clients that have brand new plants. And their database that they had that they've used for years is no longer going to even match it. So one of the things to think about is if you are going to be doing a new plant or you're doing a huge upgrade, it's going to really mess everything up. Get with us before you get to that point. Let us work with you on developing a database. So when you go online, doing it with a client next week, they just went online yesterday. Their new plant just went online. Well, they're going to have a brand new database. It's got everything that's set up. that they're doing now new in their plant. So get with us before you start your expansions. There are things that we can do. Yes, we can work on building a database, build it into the construction project. That works well. Another thing, maybe there's some new technology that you hadn't had before. Maybe you've went to a historian, like a Wonderware historian. Well, maybe we'll work with you on getting that and being able to pull that data in. Um, so keep that in mind when you are planning an expansion or whatever. It doesn't usually come up, but maybe it's something we want to look at. Maybe you've never had a maintenance program on the before. Well, you got a brand new plant coming up. Now's the ideal time to create one. We have that service, we have that software that you can go and build so that when you go online, you're able to start using it immediately. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you for coming today. If you guys have any questions, I know you guys will get a survey and stuff like that. But if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. If you have would like for us to work with you on reviewing your database, just to kind of give it a review of it, just to kind of look at us, connect up with us. We'll be more than happy to do that. So with that, thank you for your time today. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day and great weekend. And we will talk to you later.